like triangulating the fire. What could that possibly mean? Through different eons of engineering human evolution, the engineering of human evolution needed some type of fire embedded into the software of the human. And that human software has been updated over millions of years, casually, on a soft level, just so it could be right and updated and have the evolution where it's at right now. It started as a basic template, respectively, millions of years ago, in respects to just different calendars of, higher extraterrestrial beings, quote unquote, end quote, and them giving us clues on how the pattern has been built upon, and it's reflecting different elements in nature that take on different formats, forms, and magnitudes of those elemental consciousnesses. So when I say triangulating the fire, there was different hands of creation that guided the human being for it to have its organization template that it has. So in Aries season, it's like kind of like, the godhead of fire, paradoxically, it self-updated itself by experiencing a spiritual dark matter, a certain type of esoteric void, right? And obviously, shout out to collective underground shit these days, because obviously, there's different takes on what the void could mean, right? So within that void, the elements are kind of playing with the void simultaneously with the human, for the human to complete itself, for it to be what it is. And the software of the humans is, quote unquote, the astrological template, end quote. And I say quote unquote because I don't want to get lost in the words of just astrological. What the astrological definition kind of means is the intertwinings of elemental environmental spaces that have a segue in time, where different elemental energy, activity, and work has been embedded in those constellations, and those constellations reflect to make the human, and the human has a particular pattern in the software where the elements triangulate in such a way where it's first, fifth, and ninth house, the fire triangulates, second, sixth, and 10th house, the earth triangulates, the third, sixth, and 11th house, which triangulates the air, and then the 4th, 8th, and the 12th house, which triangulates the water, right? So there's a triangulation process within the elements standardly to make the constellations in the human to be what they are. And within that, different planets have a certain nature to either square out or triangulate, or just casually have a unique liking to a certain type of aspect or opposition, or a less liking to an opposition or an aspect. So there's a liking towards a certain format arrangement, and there's a quote unquote a falling, like a lessening of an aspect alignment, right? Because if the sun and Mars, both fire cardinal fire oriented energies, they're both fire signs. That triangulation of the fire and sun, first, fifth house, it's embedded into the first house neatly through a reverse engineer triangulation process within the spiritual fire to the human fire, right? Because there's an embedded software program of the constellations of the first house being the yin of the cardinal fire, where the first house is the collection of the fire, and the fifth house is the collection of the new creation, and the ninth house is kind of like the runner of that fire. So these and you could use these energies and these aspects in a positive way or not a positive way. It's just how you're using them and what aspects you could overcome, right? That's the astrology of it, right? So within the triangulation of the fire, the Aries season right here is saying the yin and yang to your first house, your rising sign, and the yin and yang to where your Aries constellation is. That's the fire playing out in your human body, right? because whatever your first house is, that energy is going to have a neat alignment to how we're kind of going to the original feminine template, first house Aries, right? And then the rising Aries, and then, and then reflect on, Instagram videos where I talk about this, in detail. The rising Aries, they could just symbolize like something of original energy order, right? They could symbolize where there's an alignment and like a paradoxical origination point, where there is an alignment between the moving constellation and then the house of it, right? Because whatever your first house is, that's where the starting over process is going to take place, and that's where you could find something of like a raw creativity. So if you're like Pisces first house, right? It's Aries would be like the house, right? So the triangulation of the fire is kind of like, it's kind of cool to look up into that because it took certain like emanations of like a certain expression of consciousness, self-individualized itself, the quote unquote the planetary beacons, end quote. They're different expressions of consciousness for it to specialize and to do something that the more deeper planets kind of could have done in a different way, but they could be quote unquote more graduated in a different field of spirituality, right? And the planets that are closer to the Earth, they're doing it a special niche mechanism for the sake of the surface level Earth matrix, right? So it's like Venus is taking care of like all of this, like this generation process, this surface level hands-on kind of like courting process, and even agriculture process, and even cultivation process. There's like a funkin' dating component, shout out to the predecessors, of where Venus is specifically doing that firsthand in the surface level arena of just whatever's happening in the casual solar system. So Venus is like firsthand, she's like specializing it nearby here for like the solar system affairs, but everyone still has that Venus component of just kind of like, organizing, I guess, the quote unquote, the levels of like, the combination, because Venus is like seeing like, it's celebrating your sexuality after the survival challenge, right? Because the story of Inanna, there's tales of her where Venus has different incarnations, and there's stories of her where she's a new incarnation, and she symbolized a certain narrative where she's running away from a king to protect her heir, because that heir would be the king of her queendom, right? And within a unique incarnation of Venus, she was kind of like quote unquote, she was some type of quote unquote bastard, end quote, but not literally like that, but per se, but like, so within that she resurrected, and she had to do a very unique tale of how she had a connection with the deeper gods, and she had a give and take relationship with the deeper gods, and she went through the polarities, or she, him, or in its various aspects. She went through the different layers and her challenges within the planets, Venus particularly, and she made it out a new way for her to represent her version of liberty, right? Her version of whatever the hero's path is, right? She has a very unique version of doing that, of preserving just kind of like like Venus, like correlating with the sacral chakra, right? So within that, there's a story behind that. There's a story that we could follow up and research and see how we're a part of that Venus myth. Because when the texts say like this and this about myths, those myths could have been something of a different type of history, right? Like that could have already happened. It's just not well-known history. So within all of that being said, the new sun reading right here is just kind of saying like, within the recent surface level dynamic play, within the narrative, there was also like a self-organization process where the human was preserved, right? So it like Venus could have preserved the recent tier of the humans itself, like Venus and Mercury. They could have preserved the recent human evolution to be what it is on this forefront. And they could have fucked around with all the other ones in their own layers, and they traveled from their stations and then they came outwards, right? And I was thinking about it in such a different way, like of how to just describe like they're kind of like some of them are just they have like a more significant prominence with taking care of like the natural affairs of life, and them having their own like metaphysical agency. For us to want to do that, we have to work with that energy of like, kind of being like mature with like surviving through the whole bigger picture, and then within the survival having the intelligence and the alignment, and kind of balancing the shadow, that Venus energy, and then kind of courting it, right? Like kind of having the intelligence to court it and see the fruits of like, how the different variations of courting it, second and seventh house, right? But I want to do a quick rundown with this one of just like the houses, right? I don't want to get too long-winded, like of like something I just like, I like kind of like this what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a closet discussion, right? It's already been like, it's already been like kind of researched and told in a different archive, right? By me and others, right? So before I go through the how like your first house it could be affected here, I'm just gonna like for the sake of some type of like quote unquote focus and consistency, end quote, because if we're all about that focus and consistency, the attention goes where your attention goes, that's where the energy flows, right? So we could have some type of new attention, and that new attention could be with intelligence, could be recognized and connected with the basic principle is to like better yourself, some type of mental work where we're applying focus and consistency, right? So that focus and consistency with passion in fashion is the challenge, where we're passionate about what we do, how to be more focus oriented, maybe choose one outfit for the rest of the year just for a fun challenge, right? Because it's just a creative challenge on how to enhance your focus capability. Because if you have the same outfit for 1 year, then you're gonna train your mind to focus on with new consistency on how to like focus on something, on how you want to master something. But that's the thing, we all have the different gift to choose what we get to focus on, right? So the lighting was bad over there for some reason, so I don't know why I was over there. So we have the new gift to choose what we focus on, right? So if we have the new gift to choose what we focus on, maybe the outfit, the creative outfit, could help our focus by applying the same outfit, so we could be repetitious with the focus, and then the yin and the yang of the focus would be some type of consistency effort, right? So here's the focus, consistency, passion, and fashion challenge for the rest of the year. Maybe, what if you could only choose one outfit for the rest of the year, for the sake of you showing the rest of the year or the next 6 months, let's say 6 months, just to be more basic. What if you showed the rest of the 6 months that you're committed to some type of real principle of focus and consistency wherever you're at, right? And in respects and alignment with the bigger picture, right? So that's a disclaimer. But what if you could only choose one outfit for 6 months? What would it be? And I changed my hat. But I would choose probably like this one, just a gray top, white collar, just for there's passion in it from the focus and consistency. There's passion in the fashion, right? And then like and then I had some variations to it though. But I would choose this one because and the hat color was different, but I would just choose this one to say that this is like this is what quote unquote I'm ready for, quote unquote, end quote. And obviously the mechanics will do its thing, and then full accountability, which no one really likes to take. That disclaimer will be here too, right? So disclaimer right there, take full accountability if you're on this content. because this is like it's just going straight to like, you know, the bones, right? Or whatever. So I would choose this outfit, and then like in a more personal, fun setting, I would change the hat to one other color, and I'm not gonna say the color because you know, that's just like that's me respecting me keeping some stuff to myself, because God is like infinite like that, right? And we're all connected to God, right? So now the new sun reading. Here's what I'm gonna do with the new sun reading. If you have the first house in Pisces, then, and this is not your sun, then the new refreshing starting of you birthing a whole new creation unconsciously and now consciously, you're birthing new creation within just your deep spiritual ancestry, Aries, deep spiritual ancestry, and you being a new self-created being, Aries, and that self-created being is going to play out in your second house. So you're going to see, you're going to be kind of like, it's kind of like, if your first house Pisces, then you're going to see like the Aries energy, that self-creation energy play out in your nighttime Venus. So if you're a first house Pisces, you could probably be in something of like, maybe, and disclaimer, sir, you could be something in like, you could be something like within the journalist energy, or you could be some type of deep researcher or some type of scholarly like anthropologist, and you could take real like, you know, consideration to like, to kind of just like your literature work ethics and that Aries energy, and you're going to see that Aries energy, that restarting energy play out in your second house being like just seeing kind of like the heights of where the Aries energy could take you. So just kind of being like a very unique party passenger, passionate about your scholarly life, and that Aries energy replaying in your second house, and that whole new self-creation energy is it's being self-created in your nightlife, right? So the key within like the first house is the self-creation energy, Aries, is going to be playing out in 1 through the 12th houses, right? So that self-creation energy, that like that jubilant energy, that raw energy, that, you know, that spiritual kid energy, right? That that, you know, that raw leadership energy, you know, that kind of even like war commander energy, right? That like that self-initiating energy, that starter energy, like that, like, let's get this shit together kind of energy. And then Capricorn would be something of like, let's do this for the long run, right? So the 10th house and the Capricorn rising, it's like the first house, their spirit is about doing it for the long run, right? So if you're a Capricorn rising, that would be what, 4th house Aries, right? 4, 1, 4, 7, 11. 1, 4, 7, 10, excuse me. Those are the cardinal houses. So the first house, the 4th house, and the 7th house, and the 10th house, those are the cardinal houses. So if you're first house Capricorn, the 4th house, you're going to have that whole self-creation. Like you could start over with like your home life. You could probably be like, and this could apply for everyone. You could like more or less like cater the first houses to someone in your tribe or your family or your aspiration, right? Because if you're a first house Capricorn and like you're having the Aries energy have a new self-raw creation of like kind of like an ambitious energy, that's going to play out in your 4th house. So the ambitious energy, the let's get back to like line up and suit, that whole like militant energy, even that whole self-starter, self-ambition, self-creation, militant energy to be played out in your house life. So if you're a first house Capricorn, the 4th house Aries, so this is the new sun reading. So within the new sun reading, first house Capricorn, that self-creation, self-starter, self-ambition, militant, you know, creative leader energy, it's going to be in your fourth house. First house Libra, that would be 7th house Aries, right? So the first house Libra, the self-starter energy, the self-creation energy, the militant energy, even the creative leader, the ambitious energy, the spiritual kid energy, that's going to be in your 7th house. So you're going to have that militant energy with your relationship affairs, right? You're going to apply that self-starter, self-creative energy in a relationship dynamic, Aries in the 7th house, right? And your 1st house, Libra, is you just self-embodying something of like Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter there. You like kind of having like a self-embodying, quote unquote, unconsciously, even subconsciously. 1st house, subconscious, secret subconscious is in the 12th in the 1st house, right? Connected there, right? So within that, the subconscious of 1st house Libra is Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, right? So this is like 1st house Libra. If you're a Libra rising, they're very principalistic. They're very diplomatic. They're very like embodying and one with diplomatic energies. And they're going to apply that, you know, that self-starter, ambitious energy in the 7th house in their relationship dynamics. So I covered 1st house Capricorn, 1st house Libra, and now 1st house Cancer. That would be 10th house Aries, right? If I'm not mistaken. So 1st house Cancer, your subconscious is related to kind of like the headship of just the moon, of the deep, you know, feminine deep state of like what's going on with like kind of just like the raw aspect of like, you know, secret Pluto and secret Lilith, right? Because the moon is it's the main concern, right? Secretly in concerns to the secret level and like the surface level of things, right? Because the moon is like, it's the most prominent energy for the humans and the earth, right? So if you're a 1st house Cancer, it's subconscious. Your 1st house is your subconscious and your embodiment, because that's what you're totaling up to be. And the 10th house Aries, the self-starter energy is going to be, and the ambitious energy, even the creative leader energy, the militant energy, that militant energy is going to be played out in the career life, in the matrix life, in the robotic life, in like the whole like the changing of the guard and the feminine order, right? Because the 10th house is like the secret deep feminine order, Saturn's mom, right? Saturn's mom is the 10th house. So every time I think of Capricorn in 10th house, it's Saturn's mom and Saturn in like just a cold place, and they're doing it for the long run because it's the start of the winter. So the Capricorns, whatever Capricorn relationship you have within the energy, it's a very long haul energy. It's a very practical energy. It's a very disciplined like energy. So the Cancers, 1st house Cancer, you're going to discipline the energy of the raw creativity and how it could be organized consciously. So the key within the Aries in the 1st through the 12th houses, it's the raw creative energy being organized in something of a militant way. And the detriment of that is too much chaos, too much erraticness. So the detrimental side of the Aries energy is too much chaos, too much erraticness, anger issues, blowing up, you know, just getting caught up in the shadow of how nothing's going your way because you're not kind of like following along with the laws of nature, right? And that fire is being intertwined in a detrimental fashion. So, and then 1st house Aries, that energy, that raw creative energy, you're gonna just be that. You're gonna have the I amness of, and on my Instagram, I do this same exact reading. I do an Aries. I think I do this. This is the 3rd time over the years. This is the 3rd time over the years I'm doing the new sun / new moon reading in Aries. And what is the new sun reading in Aries? The new sun reading in Aries is giving a reading for everybody's rising sign. So it's for your rising sign, right? And I do that over the years, and in the future I'll come back to that. But so the 1st house Aries, they're very like they're kind of like, you know, in just a very niche channel, they're kind of all over the place too, right? They kind of like, they've ran the whole gauntlet, right? It's like Aries, like you ran the whole fucking gauntlet somehow you ran the whole gauntlet, because here you are, like you're squaring off all the other cardinal things, and you're embodying the energy of fire creation. You're embodying the fire essence, and that fire essence is prominent and significant in everything, but within the guidance of the gods, it's prominent in certain triangulation settings, right? 1st, 5th, and 9th house. So the first house Aries, you're just kind of gonna like, there's just like a crown ship in a raw reverence of how different beings completed the recent human, and now there's different takes on the recent human, and now there's different conscious leaders, genetically speaking, without quote unquote like surface level mental intelligence. Now there's just different superstars, right? There's different like there's just yeah, I guess quote there's different quote unquote superstars end quote. You're a star of consciousness, right? And since you're a star of consciousness, that Aries energy from the feminine to the masculine workings with it, we have a chance to all have that first house energy in the spiritual operating system or whatever. And then that Aries energy gets to be like downpoured into one of your houses for you to kind of like have a raw creative energy, a militant energy, a self-starter energy, an ambitious energy, right? And depending on the aspects and the karmas of the tribal dynamics, that ambitious energy could get compromised, right? Because obviously if there's a blocking in your life and you like one day you're just all fucking passionate, right? One day you're just like, I could do it all. I could like, you know, I know what to do. I know what like workouts to do. I know what homework to do. I know what like books to read or whatever, you know. I know what I'm going to create, right? That Aries energy. And within that Aries energy, the different aspects of how you relate to the society and the families, it gets met by the squarings of how the Aries energy needs to settle and restart from its natural settings, and it's squaring the other cardinal aspects, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra. So within that squaring, that inevitably within just the rise of dark and light and up and down, your first house energy and your Aries energy, it needs to recharge and restart, right? So that ambitious energy it's having a new plan. That militant, ambitious energy, that raw creative energy, that conscious embodied energy, that's subconscious to the conscious, and it has a unique relationship to Pisces. You know, those side-by-side constellations, they're starting and ending. Those are the only two constellations that like officially start and end something. So it connects the whole circle, right? So those nearby signs, that's the most unique relationship of the pairing side by side, because they're completing the circle, right? So there's a completion process within Aries, right? And a subconscious process. So within Aries, it's like we're bringing light to the subconscious, right? More or less. What does that mean? We're like the new light is kind of like reflecting on just on how we're coming out of darkness, and how we came out of darkness. The darkness is kind of likened to something of an unconscious or a subconscious, and the new light is pouring the light on everything that you've worked for when you came out of the darkness, right? So that Aries energy is like coming out of the darkness, coming to be conscious, the I am, right? So the I am is like first house Capricorn, fourth house Aries, right? You're going to have the I am presence in your home, family, dynamic life. First house Libra, seventh house Aries. You're going to have the I am dynamic in your relationships, being one with your community. First house Cancer, 10th house Aries. You're going to have the I am energy within just kind of like the deep matrix of things and deep advanced like Xenocode or whatever. It respects the original predecessors. And then first house Aries is that it's just going to be like a clean alignment, right? Because like your first house could be fire, water, air, or earth. So your first house so there's only one of the four signs, or there's only one of the four elements that have a clean alignment aspect with the first house. And that's the first house fire signs, because the first house fire signs, that's a certain mode. So there's different astrology modes. If your first house is fire, then you have like a clean mode, right? If it's water, then you have like something like, it seems like there's like something of an opposition mode, right? Fire and water, they're kind of like opposition, right? So if your first house is water, there's an opposition. If the first house is air, then there's like a co-joining side-by-side teamwork effect, because the fire and the air, they're like a teamwork aspect. They need each other in the sub-realms, right? In the subconscious realms. And then if your first house is earth, that's just complete, like that's innovation, right? That's innovation, and that's technical, doing technical stuff within, you know, coming, opposing. So so the earth, so the first house, and then the first house Aquarius. Let's go to first house Aquarius. First house Aquarius, that would be third house Aries, right? And the first house Aquarius, they're the Aquariuses, they're like, for you to be a first house Aquarius, that's just being one with the future. First house Aquarius being one with the future, being one with the spooky innovation, and that spooky spirituality, playing with the spooky innovation. So if you're a first house Aquarius, your third house is Aries, right? So the first house Aquarius, the third house Aries, the third house Aries would be the I am, the self, the starting conscious energy. It's going to be communicated. You're going to have a passion for communicating, you know, just raw dynamics. You might be some type of like ancient war commander or something, or be associated with that energy, right? I'm trying to fix the sound right here. And it is, I guess it is what it is, on some other shit. On some other shit. So 1 second. So if you're a first house Aquarius, just be mindful where Aries is at and where the sun is at. You know, the sun is going to kind of like have a surging dynamic deposit energy of kind of bringing the Aries energy to the forefront of you. And then the Aries energy is where you will be receiving the changes in the life. So first house Aquarius, because obviously there's a combination with the first house and then the sun, you know, the rising sign and the sun, that's different, right? So the first house Aquarius, your third house, you could have a whole new restarting ambitious change in life and a new appeal to life of just kind of being ambitious in communication, right? First house, Scorpio. So first house, wait, Aquarius third. So yeah, so first house Scorpio, sixth house Aries. Ooh, that first house Scorpio, the Scorpio, they're just settling in. They're like in the background. They're just kind of like, they're in the audience right now. They're just kind of letting things kind of letting the darkness organize itself. You know, they're kind of just barely on the rise. The unconscious is there in Aries season. The unconscious of Scorpio is there just as, so it's like the Scorpio is something of like the watcher itself in just a weird ass way in the Aries season, because Mars is Scorpio and Aries. The suppressed side in Aries, or the unconscious side of Aries, would be the Scorpio. So the first house Scorpios, they're kind of like, they are that, they receive the I am of the Scorpio. And in that sixth house, the Aries energy, they're going to be self-starting and self-motivated and have the creativity within the sixth house. And the sixth house has to do with like sexual education and reform in education, right? And just kind of health, holistic industries, and kind of like feminine communications, right? And even like, you know, the mutation of the human and the divine mother, right? So that's the sixth house. So you're going to be like, they're going to be kind of like, they're going to be kind of like and the Neptune thing is like, that's the deep, quote unquote, witchcraft, end quote. What are you going to do with that Neptune energy pre-Saturn? And the Neptune could play out through all the signs in conjunction with your first house, or in aspect conjunction with your first house and your sun sign. So it's like Neptune, sun, and first house. That's the fucking magic, right? And that's like, for me to say that like that, that's crazy. But like, so if you're a first house Scorpio, the restarting raw creativity changes are going to, the self-starting, you know, raw conscious I am energies, that I am energy, it could be kind of like leaning towards just that education of how like the bigger picture kind of just evolves, right? So if you're a first house Scorpio, you could just kind of have like be moving with the changes of how the bigger picture evolves. First house, what do you call that? Leo. So first house Leo, what is that? That's so first house Leo, that's ninth house Aries. First house Leo is ninth house Aries. So ninth house Aries, that Aries energy, you're gonna have kind of be like something of like, you could probably like, I'm a first house Leo, so you could probably have the you know, you could probably like just be very ritualistic, right? You could probably like, you know, be very and obviously every Leo rising is way different. I want to disclose that right there, you know. But there could just be like a ritualistic way in how we're applying, you know, the lineage and the old myths of the collective roundtable. The myths of the old collective roundtable, we're making a philosophy out of that, or we're making like something of like, we're recognizing the legacy of the Godheads, quote unquote, end quote, in the human design terminology or whatever. And we're understanding the legacy of them, and we're learning from that whole collective roundtable legacy, and we're applying that as a ritual, the Aries energy in the ninth house. So we could be very ritualistic and how we're applying self-ambitious energy towards a philosophical ritualistic approach, Aries in the ninth house. And I had that in a different way earlier too. And obviously, so usually it doesn't save. Usually I just lose the videos sometimes. So I'm just going to get to it. First house Taurus would be 12th house Aries. So first house Taurus, you're embodying the qualities of nighttime Venus, and you're kind of just like at like you're just like in the goddess queendom, right? You're embodying some type of goddess energy. And within that goddess energy of the first house Taurus, the 12th house, the Aries energy will be applied to your 12th house. Within your goddess energy, everything that you will stand on in relationship to the ancestry gods, 12th house, you're gonna kind of be like you could even be even like quote unquote, there could be a subconscious like Athena aspect within first house Taurus, you know, but like, and you don't even know it because it's like the Aries is in your 12th house. That ambitious, militant, raw, creative energy, ambitious, militant, raw, creative, self-created energy of your consciousness of I am. Your ambitious, militant, raw, creative, self-leadership energy will be in your 12th house, right? So it's going to be like kind of like the first house Taurus. It could be like a spy, you know, a master of just like deep intelligence, right? So it's like intelligence. So that's the first house Taurus. Like you could just have a self-starting energy. You could have just a new secret career, and that secret career could do anything, right? Because it's very fantasy based, right? So your I am energy could be embodied into a 12th house energy roundtable of Jupe, Neptune, and Venus, right? So within that Pisces, you could embody some fanciful, deep intelligence energy of just some feminine, like imaginative consciousness, right? So that's first house Taurus. So now let me get through the mutable signs. For some reason, I went the cardinal signs, the fixed signs, and now I'm doing the mutable signs, and I did them backwards for some reason. So, and I don't think I did 12th house. Did I do first house Pisces? I think I just touched it for some reason. But I'll I'll do first house Gemini, right? So first house Gemini, that would be 11th house Aries. So first house Gemini, this is indifference upon indifference upon indifference. The hidden enemies are in the 11th house. So if you're a first house Gemini, you're going to be self-started, have new realization and awareness consciously, subconsciously. You're going to have that in the 11th house. That light is going to be in your 11th house, and it's going to show, and it's going to peak, and it's going to kind of reveal how you move through the indifference. You're going to be kind of like a conflict resoluter, right? More or less. The first house Gemini with 11th house Aries. And this is not the sun sign. This is the rising sign. This is your feminine subconscious sign, the first house sign, feminine subconscious to new conscious sign, right? So and the embodiment, the first house. So the first house Gemini, you're embodying masculine Mercury of just like getting like just kind of in between like commanders and captains, and kind of linking different headships together and communicating through that. And the 11th house, it's all about like a conflict specialist team. And you don't have to be this first house to relate to other first house energies. You could be under the work of a different first house energy, and you're just following their suit because that's what there's a niche resonance and how you're doing work for a different first house, because you don't know your boss's like astrology chart, or you don't know like their first sign and like what they embody themselves and how they look at themselves, right? They're looking at themselves through their first house sign, not the sun sign. So the first house, it's like first house Gemini, it's like they're kind of embodying that kind of that vocal pursuance, whether they know it or not. And they're kind of like, that's kind of their nature. And within the 11th house, they're going to have a self-started, ambitious energy on how to clear the conflicts. Aries in the 11th house. First house, what do you call that? Virgo, Sagittarii, and then Pisces. So first house Virgo, that would be the 8th house for Aries. So the first house or Virgo, you kinky motherfucker. And I think I'm done with first house Virgo. First house Sagittarii. That would be what do you call that? Would that be the 11th? No, it would be the Sagittarius, Sag. That would be the 5th house. So the rising Sages, they're such a paradox. Like they flow with they're like they roll with the punches, right? They see the manipulation. They might not necessarily participate with the manipulation, but they will entertain the manipulation. That's first house Sag. They're allowing the stage to be. They're allowing the drama to happen. They're as an opportunist in a unique way, not necessarily the human design, but just the raw astrology of it. The first house Sagittariuses, they're the feminine opportunists. The first house Sag, and start this from the beginning. But the first house Sag, they are feminine opportunists. They're gonna they could, like, everyone lies, right? But it's how you're lying, right? And it's not that everyone lies or everyone's honest, but somehow we find ourselves in life where we just like, there could just like, you don't want to tell the whole truth for whatever reason. You want to keep something from your partner, right? For whatever reason, right? And that's a whole different discussion. But the first house Sag, the 5th house Aries, they're gonna be focused on their new self-creation of just kind of, it's about me, not good, not bad. But hopefully the detriment aspects don't get to the best of them, where it's toxic selfishness and it's no compromise, right? So first house Sag, there could be a lack in compromise, right? Because Aries, that I am energy is just in your 5th house. It's all about you, right? First house Sag, quote unquote, end quote. It's all about you, right? And I don't know like what cut off. Hopefully everything's saved. And now the final reading would be first house Pisces. Wait, I already went. Oh wait, I think I already. So you're gonna so the I am energy is just gonna be very like it's just gonna kind of like go like the next stage of the opportunity accomplished, right? The celebration, right? Being one, celebrating the fruit of your educational labor, right? Second house, nighttime Venus, kind of like being in the after party, right? So you're going to have raw creative militant energy for that night lifestyle. You could be a club bouncer, first house Pisces. So there you have it. There you have it. I did the new sun, right? All the rising signs. I started from Capricorn. I went Capricorn, Libra, Cancer, Aries. Then I went Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and then Taurus. And then I went Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And I did Pisces first for some reason. And obviously I could redo this over again. I'll listen to this. Hopefully I'll listen to it and then I'll like redo it, right? So this reading, if you start this reading from the beginning, it's about your first house rising signs. What's your first house rising sign? What is your first house rising sign? So that's what this video is about. The rising signs and how the new moon is going to play out for the next 6 to 12 months. So I think I got it. And I'm going to hopefully like nothing cut off. And there's times I've done videos like this where they just like, you know, they just don't make it, right? But that's a whole different thing, right? So yeah, this one was kind of raw. I want to redo this one over, but I feel it's complete, you know, because I got the gist of like the Aries energy, like the just the self-starter, raw, conscious, creative energy will be playing out in one of your houses. And you could feel that on your new moon, and you could work with that Aries in whatever house. You could work with that for the next 6 to 12 months. You have a great life. Thank you. Watch it from the beginning, perhaps.